Rahubat. That means greetings in our language called Nuwapik. I'd like to welcome you to one of many lectures that we're going to be doing for the public. For those who come to our site, nupu.com. Basically, it's to kind of give you an update on the principles of what this project is all about and what you're going to learn. And so one of the things we want to focus on for those who come to the site is for them to be very crystal clear on what we're trying to teach here, what the information we're trying to convey to the public. So first we want to start out by explaining some key words that you're going to be hearing over and over again when coming to our site. Obviously, the name of our site is Nupu, which is nupu.com. But the term comes from this here, Wunuwapu. Okay? Now, me being, I want to say also for the listening audience, I'm a student of what we call the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Zazi York, also known as Amin Nubi Ru'akta Atumre. This is an image of the master teacher, basically, and I've been a student of the master for now, since 1989, so you can do the math on that. I've been studying the principles of our culture. He's the one who has introduced us to our ancient culture that we call Wunuwapu. And that's what this site is dedicated to. This site is dedicated to teaching the principles and lifestyle of our ancestors. The reason why we feel that this project is necessary is simply because of the fact that our culture has been outlawed. And so what we want to do is basically reintroduce an outlawed culture to the world. And what do I mean by outlawed? Meaning this. Wunuwapu was the ruling culture when you go back 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Okay? It was the ruling culture on the planet. Where our people were the ruling class of people on the planet. But we gradually lost power. Basically, we began to decline in power and respectability 6,000 years ago. And then that decline 6,000 years ago culminated all the way up to approximately 2,500 years ago when what is known as Egypt or Africa was invaded by Europeans, primarily the Greeks, as well as the certain Asiatic tribes, such as the Hindu tribes, or what they call Persians, invaded our culture basically, and from that point on, 2,500 years ago, we went on a downward spiral, and with the advent of Alexander the Great, or I say Alexander the Greek, when he came to power approximately 300 BC, Wunuwapu was outlawed, literally. You could not teach the principles of Wunuwapu. They basically desecrated our culture, they desecrated our language, they desecrated our land, they desecrated our knowledge. Our libraries and universities were robbed. Basically, this was what allowed the creation of the Library of Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria basically was created from the knowledge that was taken from the universities that we had in our society. And so what happened was the Greeks were able to take the knowledge they was able to understand. What they didn't comprehend, they got rid of or burnt or hid, okay, and began to use that knowledge and to portray as if they were the pioneers or originators of this information, such as Aristotle, people like Socrates and Plato and so on and so forth, promoted the wisdom that they were, their philosophy, as if they are the origin of this philosophy, and that's just not true. And what this site is dedicated to is the reemergence of our culture and the principles, and for the world to know that we call ourselves Nupunu people, Nuwapian people. One who lives Wunuwapu is called a Nuwapian. We are the original pioneers of this culture and teachings, as you'll learn as we begin to break down what Wunuwapu means. A basic explanation of what Wunuwapu means, as we were taught by the master teacher, is very simple. It means sound, right reasoning. What does that mean? Sound, right reasoning means that to be able to make decisions based on clear thinking, based on the highest level of reasonability. Okay? So, a Nuwaubian is one who makes the highest level of decisions based on the highest level of reasonability, based on your conditions that you live in. So depending on the conditions you live in will determine the type of decisions that you will make, your level of reasonability. So for instance, if you're in a cold weather, cold climate, it's a blizzard, it's reasonable to think that you will put something on to protect yourself. That's a reasonable thinking response. If you're someone who lives in extreme hot culture, it's reasonable to think that you're not going to wear a whole bunch of winter clothing. That's the unreasonable. Okay, so a Nuwaubian is someone who's just sound, right reasoning. Based on what we call natural law. Everything we did was based on that. And so what Wunuwapu is about is making decisions based on that principle, sound right reasoning. Nupu is dedicated to teaching these principles and culture. It's dedicated to that. And so what we basically are going to be focusing on is how our ancestors lived, how they made decisions. As Nuwaubian people, how they made decisions. Why did they make the decisions that they made? Why? And we'll be focused on why is it even important to even know this information? Because a lot of people don't understand. Why should we teach a culture that some would say, well, it's thousands of years old? What is the purpose? What is the principle? What we want to show the public is how practical the information is then, how practical it was then, and how practical it is now. That is what our focus is. Our focus is to be able to explain that to the public when it comes to the site. So we're going to take the time out to go over these principles detail by detail. We're going to take the time out to be able to explain the benefits of such information and how those who participate, those who come to our site and participate in what we're doing, how that information is going to benefit them and how it can enhance the quality of their life. That is the whole point of this. If we cannot show you how this can enhance the quality of your life, what would be the point? So our goal is to do just that. Our goal is to be able to enhance the quality of your life by teaching you the principles of Wunuwapu, and that will then help you make better decisions, or what we call decisions based on sound right reasoning. And once your decisions are rooted in sound right reasoning, people who had a life of despair and sorrow and anguish and poverty will transform into a life of strength and power and wealth and respectability. Okay? We come from a noble bloodline, Nuwaubian people, or we call it Nupunu people. I'm going to write that down. Nupunu. We were taught in the scientific community that there are 3 races on the planet. They taught us that there's the Caucasoid, then there's the Mongoloid, and then there's the Negroid. Okay? Those are misclassifications. Misclassifications that we want to basically straighten out. This is a part of right knowledge, sound right reasoning, as we call it. We want to clarify the 3 races of people on the planet because this site is dedicated to the primary race, or the first race, which would be called the Nupunu. So from now on, when you hear us refer to Nupunu, that is the proper pronunciation or the name for what they classified as the Negroid people. People with woolly hair by nature. People with dark skin and woolly hair by nature, primarily from the continent what they call Africa. But as you will learn on Nupu.com, that we basically come from every part of the globe. We are indigenous. Nupunu people are indigenous to everyone on the planet. That is a scientific, genetic, historical fact. Okay? And these are some of the things that the listening public will learn. That we are indigenous, the first ones there. That's what it means. Indigenous means the first ones there on the land. We were first ones in Europe. We're the first ones in South America. We're the first ones in North America. We're the first ones in Asia, China, Japan. it's a scientific fact that there were no other races on the planet other than Nupunu 50,000 years ago. So these are some of the things that will be explained, revealed, uncovered in Nupu.com, where people will learn these amazing stories, amazing facts about who and what we are. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to deal with the classifications of who we are. How do we identify ourselves? And the way we identify ourselves is as Nupunu people. Okay, in our language, which will be Nupunu Lihuma, which means black people. It's another way of saying black people. Nupunu Lihuma in our language. That's something else that we'll be teaching on Nupu.com, is our ancient language, which was called Nuapik. So you have our culture, Wu Nuapu. The people who live our culture are called Nuapians. And the language we spoke was called Nuapik. Okay? Now, you can be a Nupunu, another way of saying Negroid, and not be a Nuapian. Because a Nuapian is one who lives Wunuwapu. But you have many Nupunu who don't live Wunuwapu. They live in many different other cultures. That doesn't mean they're not Nupunu. They're still Nupunu by bloodline, birth and bloodline. But it doesn't mean they're Nuapi, because they don't live the principles of Wunuwapu. And this is what Nupu.com is dedicated to teach. It's dedicated to teach the principles and lifestyle of Wunuwapu for a better enhancement of our lives for Nupunu people all over the globe. That is what we're focused on, and that's what we're dedicated to. Changing the lowly conditions that you see Nupunu people living all over the world. Just like if you look at the conditions going on in Haiti, it's horrific. Okay? We are a great people, and we should never be in those situations. And what's even sad is when a nation such as Haiti, our people, are suffering from an atrocity that happened, like the earthquake. You had people of other races had to come to our rescue. Unfortunately, we do not have a Nupunu government globally that will be able to come to the aid of Nupunu people. Other cultures and races had to do that. And this is what Nupu.com, this is another thing with Nupu.com is dedicated to solving that problem. Nupu.com is dedicated to correcting that issue. Literally. So we want to focus on that. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to come back and we're going to focus on these three races of people and what we identify ourselves as. Rahul back. Okay, I want to pick up where we left off, and where we were focusing on the races. There are three primary races on the planet. Okay, and from a Nuwapian perspective, a right knowledge perspective, what we identify as those three races are the first race was just Nupunu. Now, that is a scientific fact that Nupunu people were the first ones on the planet. Okay, there is no dispute about that. The woolly-haired people, dark-skinned woolly-haired people that they call African, we call Nupunu, were the first ones here before any other race of people came on the planet. The second race that came on the planet we call the Asians, the Asiatics. Your Asiatics would be people classified as your Hindus, people classified as your Mongolian race, the Oriental race, the Japanese, Chinese, so on and so forth. In fact, what it says is the Mongolian, you have the primary was the Mongolian race, and then from the Mongolian you have all the others that came from the Chinese. From the Chinese you got the Japanese and the Koreans and so on and so forth. And then the third race, the last race on the planet, which would be the Caucasian. The Caucasian is basically what we identify as the last race of people on the planet. In fact, the Caucasian people are only approximately 6,000 years old as a race. They're only 6,000 years old as a race of people on the planet. Okay, that is also a historical fact, and now it's a scientific fact that scientists does confirm that the Caucasian is only approximately 6,000 years old. And so, obviously, the Caucasian came from the Asian, and the Asians basically, and we'll go. I don't want to really go into